Hey everyone, it's Mr. Montgomery again with a new math video. We did a lot with 10 frames before, and we worked with 10 frames again yesterday. We did a lot of stuff with it. Today we're going to start learning how to use two 10 frames at the same time. Don't get scared. It's going to be okay. Two 10 frames is not a big deal. The only thing we have to remember is that when we use two 10 frames at the same time, we better make sure that we fully fill up this first 10 frame up here. Okay? So, and I'm going to show you exactly how we can do that when we see other problems, and it's going to help us figure them out so much. So don't worry. So let's just jump right into it, and we're going to look at this first problem right down here. It says 8 plus 4. Now, you should have some counters with you. Feel free to use them on your paper. If not, hit the space bar on the Chromebook real quick and let me know that I forgot to give you the counters. All right. So hopefully you all have counters now, and you told me if there was none there or you already had them there. So let's start jumping right into this. So this first problem here is 8 plus 4, right? So let's show these two parts that they're telling us. So up here, we're going to make 8. So we're going to first, of course, start from the left on the top row and work our way across, because we have to fill up each row. And we know that once we fill up the top row, we have 5. And then we have 6, 7, and 8. Okay, but then, so that's one part. This 8 is just one part. And the next part that they're showing us is 4. So let's use a different color. And let's make 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And now what's 8 plus 4? Well, let's do this one together. We're going to count on. Ready? 8. We're going to count on from 8. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 8 plus 4 is 12. But now they want us to show how to make 12 a different way. They want us to have 10 first. So they're saying that with this 10 frame up here, they're saying you should fill up this whole 10 frame first before you ever use the second 10 frame. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's take, well, we need 2 counters up here, right? So let's take 2 counters away from here. And let's put them in that top 10 frame. Almost forgot to change my color back to red. Okay. So we're just going to add them up here. And now let's see what our parts show us. Our parts are showing us how many do we have in the top 10 frame. We have 10. And now we need to find out the second part. How many is in our second 10 frame? Well, we can count them real easy. 1, 2. Now look how much easier this looks to work with. So we have 10 plus 2 now. 10 plus 2 gives us 12. Okay, so now let's do this next problem, and let's clear off our boards. Okay, so make sure you clear everything off your paper. Shouldn't take you long. And we're going to jump right into number 2. So they tell us what they want the first part to be, which is 9. So on this first 10 frame, let's make 9. And we know right away, since it's bigger than 5, we have to fill up this whole top row. And then, so we have 5, and then let's count on 6, 7, 8, and 9. So you have 9 on this first 10 frame. But they're letting us pick our second number. Let's make this number, let's make it an easy one. Let's make it 2. So, using our second 10 frame, let's fill in 2. 1, 2, and now let's solve it. 9 plus 2. Think it real quick. What is 9 plus 2? It is 11. I know it already seems pretty easy, but now they want us to make sure that we use the 10 frame the right way. And when we use 10 frames the right way, we have to make sure that if we have more than 10, we need to fill up this whole first 10 frame first. So let's go ahead and fix that. So we're going to take one away here because we have one space we have to fill in. And we're going to draw it on this first 10 frame. So really you would just take this one and drag it all the way over here, right? So now let's look at this again. In our first 10 frame, we now have 10. And our second 10 frame, how many do we have? Because we moved one over to make sure that the first one was filled. We just have 1. And now let's look at it again. 10 plus 1 is, well, it looks way easier now because it's really easy to work with the number 10. So 10 plus 1 is 11. So this is just another way that we can make 11. Just like over here in the first one, 8 and 4 make 12, and 10 plus 2 make 12. We are making the same total. And over here, on number 2, we're making the same total. Now let's look at number 3. So go ahead and clear your boards. I'll give you another second to clear off your papers. Okay, now let's look at what part they're having us work with first. For our top 10 frame. Well, they gave us the number 7. So let's go ahead and fill in 7 on our top 10 frame. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do it quick. 6 and 7. Whew. Okay. So we have our first part. Now let's just pick a number to use for our second part. Let's pick the number, 6. 6 sounds fun. Okay. So we have 7 and 6. So we need to make sure we make 6 on this bottom 10 frame. So go ahead and make 6. Let's try to see how quick we can do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So our first part is 7. We made 7. And then we picked 6. We made 6. And 7 plus 6 is, think it real quick. What is 7 plus 6? Try to figure it out. Try to figure it out. It is 13. So 7 plus 6 is 13. Now let's try to do this the right way. So this is one way we can make 13. But let's make sure we use the 10 frames the right way. So let's see. How many counters do we have to move to the top 10 frame? Let's count the spaces. 1, 2, 3. So we have to take away 3 of these counters down here. And we have to move them up here. All right. So we just moved them up to move 3 from the bottom 10 frame to the top 10 frame because we should always make sure that the first 10 frame we use is completely filled before we move on. So now that we did it right, let's look at it again. So we have 10 as our first part, and we have 10 up here. And then what is now in our second 10 frame? Well, let's count them. 1, 2, and 3. So now our number sentence turned into 10 plus 3. And what is 10 plus 3? Think it real quick because it's so much easier to work with 10 than 7. So what is 10 plus 3? It's 13. So 7 plus 6 is 13, and 10 plus 3 is 13. So is the same total. We just use different parts because we're making sure that we use these 10 frames the right way. So now go ahead and clear off those counters and open up your work mats to the first page. Okay, I'll give you all another second to open up to the first page. Okay, if you're all set, then take a look at what I made right here. I made very quick 2 10 frames, very, very quick. It's just to help us out. And you should have a double 10 frame with you with the counters that I gave you earlier. And you can use those to help you if you need them. So let's look at this first one that they kind of did for us. We're going to do it together just to really make sure we understand it. So our first part that they told us is 9. So in this first 10 frame, let's make 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Right, so we have 9 dots there. And what is the second number they gave us? It is 3. So in our second 10 frame, we're going to make 3. 1, 2, 3. Right, easy enough. And 9 plus 3 is 12. So you can go ahead and trace that 12. And now let's look how we could change it to help us out. Well, since we have one empty box here, we should actually move one counter back over here. So let's do that. Move one back over here because the right way to use the 10 frame is to make sure that the first full 10 frame is filled. You want the first 10 frame completely full before you really move on to the next one. All right, now that you have your counter over in the other 10 frame, it's filled. Let's look at numbers we have now. So the first 10 frame gives us what number? 10, because it's all filled up. And in our second 10 frame, what number do we have? Let's count them. 1, 2. And we can trace this 2 now, because we know that the second 10 frame has 2. And what's 10 plus 2? It's 12. We made the same total. 9 plus 3 equals 12. And 10 plus 2 equals 12. It's just that 10 is a much easier number to work with. So real quick, let's clear our 10 frames. And let me see if you can do number 2 on your own. All right, I'll give you a couple more seconds, then we're going to go over number 2. All right, so what is the first part that they gave us? First part is 7. All right, so let's make 7 dots in this first 10 frame. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now what is the second part for the other 10 frame? It's 4. So let's make 4 dots. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 7 plus 4 is 8, 9, 10, 11. 7 plus 4 is 11. But if we use 10 frames the correct way, how many counters do we have to move over to the first 10 frame? Let's count the spaces. 1, 2, 3. So let's take 3 of these dots. We're going to move them over. Move them over. I'll get rid of those other dots on the other 10 frame here. Good. And so now let's see what we have. The whole first 10 frames filled up, so that gives us 10 plus what number? We just have 1. So 10 plus 1 is, of course, 11. I'll give you a couple seconds to do number 3 by yourself, and we'll go over it again. So go ahead and get started. All right, I think that was enough time. Let's go over it. So the first number we have for our first 10 frame is 8. And we have 8 dots in our first 10 frame, right? Our second number for our second 10 frame is 4. So I'm going to go ahead and make those 4 dots. 3 and 4. So now what is 8 plus 4? Let's find out. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's 12. So 8 plus 4 is 12. But if we use these 10 frames the correct way, how many counters are we going to move over from here to there? Well, let's count the spaces. We have 1, 2 spaces open. So we're just going to move the counters over here. Take 2 away from the other 10 frame. Because when we use the 10 frame correctly, we make sure that the first one is always filled up all the way before we ever go on to another one. And I'll get rid of this so we don't accidentally confuse anybody later on. Okay. So now let's look at what we have. The first 10 frame is giving us 10 because we have it completely filled up. So that is 10. And the second 10 frame, what number? Well, let's count. 1 and 2. So 10, that's so easy to work with. I love working with number 10. So now 10 plus 2 is 12. All right. See, that's all we're doing. So we're just taking the number sentence that they gave us in the first place, finding out the answer, and then just looking back at the 10 frame to see how we should really use a 10 frame the right way to solve this problem. And you're going to make the same number. So we're going to learn how to make that number a different way, and we're also practicing how to use 2 10 frames the proper way. Make sure that you always have this first one right here always filled up all the way before you ever go on to a second 10 frame. Okay? And when you do math problems with 10 frames, you can also think of this first 10 frame as a whole, it's a part. So see how this 10 is a part? That's this first 10 frame. And the second part here in the addition problem, that's going to be this 10 frame right here, the second one. Okay? So go ahead and go do number 4 here. Do that one all by yourself and go on to the next page and do that whole next page by yourself, okay? If you have any problems, you can join me on the carpet with our other friends. And if you just have some questions, feel free to ask me. All right, I'll talk to you all soon.